Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Welcome to our next episode in our complete reading of Srimad Valmiki Ramayana. By the time we ended our episode yesterday, we got to know about the Ksheerasagara Mathana that was done and how the gods or the Devatas got Amrita while the Danavas they were not able to get Amrita, and we also got to understand why Devatas are called Suras. Now, a wonderful explanation to this Ksheerasagara Mathana is we all think there is some Ksheerasagara somewhere and from there or this Mathana happened and we think that this churning has happened. Yes, that's true. That is what has happened in the ocean of milk. But then there is another Ksheerasagara. That Ksheerasagara is in our heart. So every human wants to be immortal, right? And how do we become immortal, sir? We always see, even among the English, you have this quest for elixir, right? Through which they become immortal. We do a lot of things. There's a lot of churn that happens in us. And then we have a positive side in us and negative side in us. And then with the positive side and the negative side, a churn happens in our heart. And from the churn, first we start leaving all bad things out. Comes out of us is hala hala. The poison comes out first. We leave that and we need to keep churning it. In the middle, we'll get a lot of money. A Kubera, he is the symbol of money. And then we get Airavata, the great elephant. So they won't come physically. Getting Airavata is akin to you getting a lot of kirti in the world. Uchchaishrava, the great horse, that is akin to we wanting to accumulate a lot of good name, a lot of reputation in this world. Okay. And then Mahalakshmi also comes, and that Mahalakshmi is taken by Srimanarayana. And that's where the Amrita also comes out. And once we get that Amrita, we realize that we are the Brahman. Okay, there are no two things. We realize the non-duality, and that will give us moksha. And once you get moksha, you become one with the Brahman that's pervading all over the world, and hence you become immortal. So that's Ksheerasagara Mathana in a very, very new context. Anyways, once this Ksheerasagara Mathana was over, when the Rakshasas and Devas had this fight, then the Asuras or the Rakshasas, they ran away. Where did they go? They ran away to all places in the world. And most of them went to Patala, looking at the plight of her sons. Kasyapa Prajapati had 4 wives, Diti, Aditi. It's Aditi, Diti, because the first wife is Aditi, second wife is Diti, then Vinata, Kadruva. So these are the 4 names that we ought to remember. And Aditi's sons, as I told her, Adityas are the Devas, Diti's sons are the Daityas. So now Diti felt sad about her children's condition, and she walked up to Kasyapa Prajapati and she makes a wonderful statement. She says, "Your sons are troubling my sons." I mean, this is a very, very interesting way in which that lady puts, because whatever he said is true. But the only point here is even Diti's sons are also Kasyapa Prajapati's sons only. But then that's the woman who is possessed with anger, right? So she goes to her husband and says, "Your sons," which means sons of Kashyapa and Aditi, are troubling my sons. My sons here refers to Diti's sons. And so, because they are getting troubled like this, I want a son who will defeat Devendra. Kasyapa Prajapati will say, "You see, you should not go after such bad desires." But then the lady she stood her ground. She said, "I need a son." Then she just touches her belly and says, "I am blessing you. You will get a son, but you will have to do tapasya for 1000 years." Okay. And in these 1000 years, you should never get into asaucha. Now, asaucha is impure. And when we are impure, right, we attract the negative energies. All sorts of negative energies of the world are attracted when you get into asaucha. Okay, so saucha is purity, where you take a bath, you don't touch anything else in your house, you go, you perform your puja. For that puja, you would have, on the day that you are performing the puja, a day before, you would have taken a bath, you would have taken a spare set of clothes for yourself, mostly clothes which are not stitched if you are a man, and if you are a woman, you put up a sari, and probably the accessories that go with the sari, only those accessories can be stitched, but otherwise you preferably would not take any stitched cloth. You take a dhoti or you take a sari, you dry it the day before and you leave it untouched the entire day. The next day you go take that and wear again. For God's sake, never do any puja, any japa with wet clothes. That's not at all allowed. If you are taking a bath in a river and then you are doing something just beside the river, that's fine. But if you are doing it in the home, you should never pray with wet clothes, never do a Sandhya Vandana with wet clothes, never do a puja with wet clothes. Mostly 99% try to ensure that you have dried a cloth the day before, or you have taken bath, washed a cloth and left it for drying, and the next morning you wake up, take a bath again, then go take that cloth and then do the puja. These are all called as the physical saucha. And then you also need antas saucha. What is antas saucha? You should not have any bad thought. When I say bad thoughts, it's not just about kama, it's also about krodha. You are doing the puja and you're grinding your teeth about somebody else who had done something bad to you. That's extremely wrong. So this is antas saucha. So you have to maintain bahya saucha as well as antas saucha. Antar bahishya tatsarvam vyapya narayana sthitah. When you do bahya saucha and antas saucha, you will get Narayana both inside and outside. Okay, now this saucha here, it has got many rules in Hindu Dharma. For example, you should not sleep with wet feet is one thing. In most of our houses, we have this dwara, right? And at that dwara, you have a small wooden thing that goes on the bottom also. Okay, you should never sleep on that. You should never sleep near a door. Okay, one way in which you can lose your saucha is, if you're a woman, you have a long hair, and by chance your hair touches your legs, or the hair touches your feet, then your saucha is gone. Nowadays we see this has somehow become very very fashionable for people to leave their hair and do puja and all. Okay, there are some people in Sanatan Dharma who leave their hair very freely. Some of them are Tataki, Turpanakha, and you have a lot of people around Sitama when she is in Ashokavana. They all leave their hair very very freely. Okay, but when you are going to a temple, at least you don't want to be like that, right? So hence you have to tie your hair and go. Now women, don't come back to me complaining that is it only for women, is it not for men. For men, having a shikha is extremely important, and except when you are sleeping, you should not have your shikha untied. Okay, you should always tie your shikha. Okay, otherwise you are inviting all sorts of negative energies onto you. So these are some basic things of Saucha that I told. Now Kashyapa Prajapati told his wife Diti to do a tapasya for 1000 years while maintaining Saucha. Okay. Also, I mean, lot of things are there in Saucha which I can't completely elaborate here. Anyone who is interested might probably want to put down a comment in the comment box. If I get time, I'll try to elaborate Saucha in a separate episode or something, or as an answer. Now Diti started her tapasya, and after some time, Devendra himself came to do seva to her. This is another important thing in Sanatana Dharma, where you go, if you know somebody is doing a tapasya, you go and do seva to them so that they can complete their tapasya as quickly as possible and as easily as possible. Now, why is Devendra doing this? He has two motives here. One, if her tapasya gets complete, and if really there is a son who comes out, because he has been serving her for so long, he might get a concession. Two, if at all she loses saucha in the middle of this entire tapasya, he probably can ensure that that guy who is coming out just to kill Devendra, he might not even come out. Okay, this is what Devendra thought. I mean, I am assuming that Devendra thought when he came, but he started serving her, and he was serving her in a very nice and wonderful way. And 990 years have passed, and there were 10 years left. And she felt like, okay, I have done 99.9% of the tapasya, it's only 0.1% remaining. And that day she looked at Indra and said, hey Devendra, you have been serving me very nicely for all these years, but what to do? Soon you are going to get a brother, and when the brother comes out, I will recommend to him that he might only defeat you, but he will not kill you. And you and him sit on the same throne and rule. Devendra just smiled. He realized that she is getting what? Ahankara. And that's the fundamental thing that will kill the tapasya. That's what Vishwamitra also told, right? I should not get into ego. Ahankara should not be there to anyone, right? That day, she was sitting near the door and suddenly she fell asleep. So this is extremely, if you are doing any sadhana and if you are still in the sadhana pada, which means you have not attained a level. So if you have attained a certain level of sadhana, if you have completed a certain level of sadhana, it is still okay. But if you are at the starting stages of sadhana, you are not supposed to sleep between sunrise and sunset. Now, this lady slept in the afternoon, and when she slept, she was sitting and sleeping. So, obviously, her hair went and touched her feet, the other side of the feet. And that moment, her saucha was lost. The moment her saucha was lost, Devendra took a Sukshma form, got into her belly, and started killing that child who was in the womb. And he made 7 pieces of the child. And as the child was crying inside, Devendra was telling Maruda, don't cry, don't cry. And he made that into 7 pieces. And suddenly she realized, she woke up and she realized what Devendra did in her womb. And as she woke up, Devendra also came out. She realized her mistake and she said, Hey Devendra, I made a mistake and hence you got even Stevens with me. But it's okay. But now I am requesting you one thing. You take these people as your brothers and make them the lords of the winds. And one of these brothers should be the ruler of all the air that is there in Brahmaloka. And another person would be, she says, head of all the air in Indraloka. The third one would be called Vayu, and he would be the head of entire air in this whole world. Okay, and then the other four who are remaining, he made the child into 7 pieces, right? So all seven will now be born, and each of them she's giving a role, and the other four they will always be serving you. And since when you were killing, you kept saying Maruda, Maruda, I will not give them any new name. They will be called maruttas going forward. Okay, so that's how those 7 people were born, and all 7 of them are even today they control the air of the world. That is what is told. Now, you might get a doubt, why was Devendra so interested in killing? And once she did her tapasya for 990 years, why was she not able to get the exact result that she was supposed to get? When you look at it right in today's, from today's lens, from today's social justice wala lens, if you look at it, you might feel, oh, no, she was wronged upon, these devas were scheming people, that and this. But fundamentally, we need to understand what was her sankalpa. Her sankalpa was not to have a strong son who would help all Danavas, who would help all her sons. No, she wanted to have a son who would defeat Devendra. Why? Why do you want to do that? Because if Devendra was ruling in a bad way, you would have gone and done all sorts of things to him. He is ruling in a correct way. It was her sons who picked a fight with Devatas. There was a fight that got ensued, and they did not wait till Mohini came and gave them the Amrita. So when all this has happened, without getting into all the details, she took an emotional decision, and that emotional decision clouded her judgment. Her husband also said that you should not do tapasya for this sort of things. It might go the other way around. She did not listen. She struggled for those 990 years. And what happened in the end? She then realized that she fell short of the whole thing. Right? That's one more thing that Ramayana teaches us, is that if your sankalpa is bad, if your thought process is bad to begin with, your end result is also going to be equally bad. So, well, that's about the maruttas and all. And now, Vishwamitra is saying, do you remember the place where Diti did that penance or that tapasya, and where this conversation between her and Devendra happened? That all happened in this place, and that is called as the kingdom of Vishala. Okay. Now, the 990 years of tapasya was done in this place. So, and that's why, see, for 990 years a person did tapasya. So, the entire bhumi there is going to become very, very conducive for tapasya. Okay. So the Ikshvaku kings, okay, used to rule this. Ikshvaku himself ruled over this place. And from Alambusa, from a wife called Alambusa, Ikshvaku had a son called Vishala, and that Vishala came and created a city over here, and he named the city as Vishala. Okay, for Vishala, he had a son called Hemachandra. Hemachandra had a son called Suchandra. Suchandra's son was called Dhumaswa. Dhumaswa's son was called as Srunjaya. Srunjaya's son was Sahadeva. Sahadeva's son was Kusaswa. Kusaswa's son was Somadatta. Somadatta's son was Kakustha. Kakustha's son is Sumati, and that Sumati is ruling this country now. When Vishwamitra completed this whole narration, by this time even Sumati got to know that Vishwamitra, Sri Ramachandra, Lakshmana and all have come here. So he comes running to them and he gave them Arghya Padya, and then he spoke about Rama, Sri Rama, Lakshmana and all, and he learnt about all the great things that those two kids did, and his heart was filled with joy. And then after that, Vishwamitra took leave from there, and from there they moved towards Mithila Nagara. Now you might have a doubt, where is this Vishala? Vishala is near Badrinath. Okay, from there they almost moved to the outskirts of Mithila. So we are actually approaching towards Sita Swayamvara now. But before that, there are few interesting things that are going to happen. What are they? We'll see in our next episode. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pasyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhaved. Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Satuki Sahasri Maharaj Swam Charana Arvinda Arpanamastu. Jai Shri Ram.